to individual questions, calls for action, concerns that you have. And so we're going to, if you have a ticket, if you didn't, anyone can take a ticket in the back. There's a bowl back there. The bowls are glass or transparent. We're going to have more people who are going to want to raise the issue that's near and dear to their heart today. Then we're going to have time to go through. So know that if you write down that question on the white part also of the table, you'll get a response to that within 10 days. Anyone that doesn't get to us today knows that we use our response. Some of them are going to take off here when you get your ticket call, come up here with your seats up here. So in just a second, we're going to pick not for 10 or 15 of these. If your ticket gets called, feel free to make your way over here and sit in one of these seats, and you can just hang out for a little bit, and we'll get to you as we move through. But now you can sit down and relax. Follow-up question. Let the person sit next to you go, hey, can you really do all of this? And never let you go. Other than one person at a time. Okay, let's draw the questions. So, Second Lieutenant Lynn Shrimp, leading our color guard today. Is he running by non-partisan candidates to pull this out?
Oh, so the squadron is not me.
I will take one note about the forum. We all look well and we all love our neighbors. We try to be respectful of everyone. So it's a lively time. There's many reasons to be frustrated about a whole host of injuries taking place. Let's raise those issues. We'll start talking about it in the room. And sir. Oh, you're done. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and then lastly, just on the forum, there's a signpost in the back. Sign inside. Feel free to use that outside. Here is the goal of transparency. And the first question number is. All right, 4 is the last 3 digits. 470. We're going to pick 15 minutes. Next number is 467.
Why don't you?
423. 398. We have Congressman Sherman here, ready to meet the community. There we go.
Hey. Thank you, John. Will Cadet Squadron 3, led by Lieutenant Lynn Shrimp, please present our nation's colors? States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh. Thank you, Cadet Squadron 3. Hello, I'm Brad Sherman from America's best named city, Sherman Oaks. And it's my honor to represent the South and the West San Fernando Valley and much of the West Side in the United States Congress. It is a pleasure to be back at Canoga Park High School and to rejoin you for another one of our town hall meetings. Now, 2024 was perhaps the most important election of our lifetimes. I told everyone that if Donald Trump was elected, that we had to try to, and God forbid took the Senate and the House, that things in America were going to get worse. A lot of us did everything we possibly could to make sure that that didn't happen, but we are where we are. In 1,250 days, there's going to be another election, but wait, actually less than that, because we're going to have an election in November of 2016. And the goal of 2026, excuse me. We're going to have to try to get our nation through what is going to be a very tough period. Now, I didn't go to Congress to play defense. I'm a progressive Democrat, a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal and Medicare for All. I'm the champion in Congress of ending right to work nationwide, because you ought to be able to organize a union in any one of our 50 states. I'm the chief advocate for saying we shouldn't negotiate the price of 10 pharmaceuticals. We should regulate the price of all pharmaceuticals. I was the first to introduce articles of impeachment against Donald Trump back in 2017. The only member of Congress to confront him face to face, and that was in the Palisades, and you can see that on the website. And a couple days ago, had a chance to vote against, I know my party didn't stay uniform on this, against the idea of just ignoring Al Green's articles of impeachment. Those articles of impeachment should have been considered, and considered seriously, by the Judiciary Committee. We need to defeat their worst proposals, scare them out of proposing what they really want to do, which is even worse than what you've heard, and force their representatives in Congress, because we can take back the House just by picking up 4 seats, force them to take the tough votes, which is why At a time that Republicans will determine, I'll be flying back to Washington to vote no on the big ugly bill. So that they have to get even their most vulnerable members to vote for that thing. We've already won one minor victory. Don Bacon of Omaha announced he's not running for re-election. He is their most popular candidate in that swing seat. He realized that he couldn't get re-elected if he kept voting with the Republican majority, so he's decided to stand aside. And we just need 3 or 4 more like that. Now, we have got to legislate, demonstrate, investigate, litigate, and educate. When it comes to demonstrating, I've been there in Woodland Hills, Chatsworth, Thousand Oaks. I'll be with Alex Padilla on Monday in downtown. And both investigate and demonstrate, I'm leading a group of members of Congress out to Adelanto. Adelanto is out in the San Bernardino County desert and is the large ICE detention facility. We will demand and we will get entrance, and we will see what is happening to people who have been ripped from our community. Now, I probably can't get you in, but if you want to be there to support the group of us, send an email to john.alford@mail.house.gov. That's john.alford@mail.house.gov. And we'll see if you want to join us up. It's a 2-hour drive up in Adelanto. Now, in addition to the Valley, which I've represented for a long time, they added the Palisades to my district, and a few people have said, well, Sherman, we need to get more help for the Palisades. Why don't you just tell Donald that you'll kiss whatever part of his body? And I'm not going to do that. We're going to fight for the Palisades. And as I'll get to, we've been successful to some degree. But I'm not going to vote to ignore Al Green's articles of impeachment, and I'm sure as hell not going to vote for the big, ugly bill. Now, 85% of this country agrees on one thing, and that is the president should follow the decisions of the courts. And let's hope that we can continue that unity. You know, I've been involved in foreign policy for decades, and I learned things that I never thought I'd be applying to my own country. I've studied troubled democracies in Turkey, Brazil, Pakistan, the list goes on and on. And every time one of those democracies gets shaky, I always ask, what are the military officers and the flag officers going to do? And I am pleased to tell you that we have a military that is dedicated to the Constitution. Now, for them, that means, as interpreted by a Supreme Court that I'm not a great fan of, but we have got to make sure that we do not have Donald Trump give him an excuse to declare martial law in part or all of our country. Now, here, I'm torn because I have 2 responsibilities. One is to voice what my constituents feel toward Trump and the people who voted for him. And I could maximize my popularity in the Valley by saying anybody who even thought of voting for Donald Trump is batshit crazy and ought to be institutionalized. But I have another responsibility, and that is to educate and bring over the folks who thought of voting for Trump or did vote for Trump. Not so many of them here, but in Omaha, in Tustin, in Tulare, we've got to win some people over. And it is critically important that we win the 2026 election. But I am not going to push the Fed to have bad policies or to vote for policies that increase prices or interest rates. First, because although there are those who say, well, if the country gets worse, people vote against Trump. That's probably bad politics. It's definitely bad policy. We see in Donald Trump over and over again, particularly in trade agreements, what he does, it's illustrated what he did with NAFTA. He told us all NAFTA was the worst trade deal negotiated in the history of the world, and he's going to burn it. Then in his first term, he negotiated USMCA, which he discussed, which of course deals with the United States, Canada, and Mexico, which he declared to be the best trade agreement negotiated in the history of the world. There's almost no difference between those two deals. They are almost identical. So he's doing that also with the United Kingdom deal. I've had a chance to confront Donald Trump in the Palisades, to confront Rubio. Some of you have seen this on video. The man had the guts to come before our committee and say not a single person had died yet as a result of Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, ripping food and medicine away from the poorest people in the world. So I stood there beside signs of those who had already died in the first month of the Trump administration, where they had ripped away the oxygen treatment of one woman. They had taken HIV AIDS drugs away from a 7-year-old boy in South Sudan. And this is not only terrible there, and will lead to well over 3 million deaths, most of them from malaria, AIDS, and tuberculosis. But be on Team Human. If anyone in the world gets one of those diseases, it's a chance for the disease to replicate, mutate, and migrate back here in a form we may not be able to deal with. So I have fought these cuts in USAID. Just the day before yesterday, I had a chance to confront Carrie Lake. You might know her from Arizona. Rejected twice by the people of Arizona. They put her in charge of broadcasting, international broadcasting. And so she came and said she once thought that one of the broadcasters, and we're broadcasting in like four or 5 dozen different languages, so there's a huge amount of broadcasting, that one of them was repeating the talking points of the Chinese Communist Party. And I pointed out to her, because she went on and on about how you can't trust Voice of America. That's a Russian talking point. That's a Chinese talking point. Putin has been saying that every day since he first got into power, and she says, Voice of America is repeating talking points. I'd also point out that she said you can't trust the numbers as to the number of people listening to Voice of America. The numbers that we quoted to her are almost identical to the same numbers that were announced during the Trump administration. So I commended her for not trusting the Trump administration. That's the kind of bipartisanship we ought to see. Now, I've got other things to cover, but I want to take the first 5 questions now, and then I'll get to the rest of this opening statement. John, are we ready to go?
Yeah. My name is David Reed. I'm from Sherman. I've been a constituent of yours for about 10 years now, and I'm ashamed to say I have not been as civically engaged as I have in the last few months. I should have done more of these, but the thing that has me out here, and a lot of my friends and neighbors and loved ones, is a fear for personal safety. Right now, with these ice raids going on, I don't know whether or not, if I'm pulled over, I should resist or not. Men who are in unmarked cars aren't. My question for you is, with your relationships with the city council, mayor, the people here, irrespective of what you're doing in Washington and working you there, what is being done here to protect us and keep us safe?
Wow. What ICE is doing is absolutely outrageous. They've just arrested somebody who was posing as a ICE officer. We saw in Minneapolis the assassination of a member of the state legislature and her husband, and the near death of another, posing as officers. We can't have a situation where people are posing as officers, often with their face covered. We need instead to have official ID, and we need to get them to put their badge number in giant numbers across their chest. Because Trump's approach is to turn to these ICE officers and say, cover your face, cover your badge, beat the hell out of people if you feel like it, and no one will be able to tell that it's you. Now, I've called on Kristi Noem to resign, in part because he said that Los Angeles was a city of criminals. Los Angeles is a city of great Americans. Now, I can tell you that if somebody identifies with appropriate identification that they are ICE, that you should physically resist. That's the one thing they want you to do. And every time they've arrested a U.S. citizen, they've said, oh, this isn't part of our ethnic targeting of everybody who looks in a particular way. We only arrested this person because they came fighting us. There's a woman, I don't think she weighs over 100 pounds. There's saying she charged at the ICE officers. So I can't tell you, I can tell you, and we have out on the table, and please get the message out, that we have information for what people should do if they're undocumented, or if someone in their home is undocumented, to assert their constitutional rights. We certainly have the right to say no. If you don't have a search warrant, you can't come into this home. And the LAPD has a responsibility to enforce our property and constitutional rights. Now, I wish I could tell you that I've got a perfect answer for you, that I'm going to say a few words and you're going to be completely calm. And I don't have that. But I do think, we saw the courage of Alex Padilla. On related issues, I'm co-sponsoring I've signed the amicus brief for the arguing on birthright citizenship, co-sponsored legislation to provide a way for those who have lived in our communities for decades and without criminal records to become citizens. If they want to call that amnesty, let them. I join with others in introducing the American Dream and Promise Act for our dreamers to become citizens. I visited the detention facilities where they hold children and have co-sponsored the Dignity for Detained Minor Immigrants Act. But we have a president that regards laws as something that he's above, and a House of Representatives controlled by people who wouldn't impeach him if he shot somebody in broad daylight on Fifth Avenue. This is going to be a difficult time. I'll simply say that we have got to win in 2026 because of imagine what Donald Trump will be like if he can say, I did it, and they voted to have me do it more. So I am spending an awful lot of my time helping those in close districts around this state and around this country. I realize that's an imperfect answer. Let's go on to the next question.
I'm Dorothy Samuels, and I live in your area. I am an American, and I care about this country very much. I'll travel there. So what I'm saying is, I'm a member of APAC. And you have a flag, of APAC flag in your office?
No.
No.
I'm not a member of APAC. I tend to agree with them. Now, sometimes I disagree. I have disagreed with them on occasion. But no, the only flags in my office are the American flag and the California flag. And you know, a number of my colleagues have the flags of various foreign countries in their office. I don't.
And something that hasn't been talked about a lot. We've talked about tariffs, we've talked about all kinds of things like that. But if you look at the exchange rates, you'll see that the current economy is tanking relative to everybody else, anywhere from 12 to 18%, depending on what you look at. What can Congress do to stabilize the economy? Because everybody gets penalized there.
We have just had the first quarter of negative economic growth since COVID. We have a president who can impair business with a tweet, or I guess a Truth Social posting, or whatever he wants to call it. And the harm being done is you've illustrated, and it's going to get worse if they're able to pass, God forbid, this big ugly bill. That increases the deficit by $5 trillion over the next 10 years. That means it raises interest rates and raises the inflation rate. And it puts the Federal Reserve Board in a position where they have to choose between raising interest rates or letting the inflation rate get completely out of hand. So things are, Trump inherited an economy that was growing and that was the envy of the world. And folks, we'll go on to the next question.
Butcher of Gaza. No weapons for Israel.
As an economic matter, we're spending roughly 5 times as much helping Ukraine as Israel. But I realize people here are not focused on the economic side; they are on a particular side. Folks, we need to hear, folks, we've got to be polite for everybody here. If we're just going to have a shouting match, we won't have a town hall. Let's go on to the next question.
60,000 people dead in Palestine.
Let's hear from this man. He's here, he deserves our respect, and he deserves his minute. Sir, you deserve our respect. What is your question?
I was born in Chicago. My parents were born in Chicago, but my grandparents were not. They were born in Poland and in Russia. They came here right from zero. They were never citizens of the country. My father became a citizen
because he was born. I became a citizen because I was born that there is an attempt by Trump to eliminate child birth rates, which is the 14th Amendment. Now, I'm going to give a tidbit of history. In 29 and 30, in Germany, Nazi Germany, which we all fought, they took over the courts. And the courts defended what the Nazis wanted. And then they passed the Nuremberg laws. And in the Nuremberg laws, they stripped the Jews of all of their citizen rights to the country of Germany. Now, we say never again. I do. We say never again. It's happening. Trump took over the courts. And everything he's doing is approved by the Supreme Court. Now, my question to you, when the Supreme Court justices, the 6 of them, went to their interviews, they swore under oath that they would support the Constitution and...
Sir, you're eloquent, but I'm going to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay. They all lied. They lied in their interviews. What did the Congress do about it?
Birthright citizenship is a critical part of the 14th Amendment and our Constitution. 6 courts have ruled against Trump's executive order. The Supreme Court dodged the issue and focused on a different issue. We can get to that if a question comes up. The Supreme Court should have said, and I think eventually will say, birthright citizenship is there in the Constitution. Now, there are some countries that don't have birthright citizenship. In Kuwait, they have families come to do the work, while those who, the princes, are very, very wealthy from the oil. And you have 2 or 3 generations of people who are born in Kuwait and are not citizens. Number of other.
He's asking about America. Why are you talking about Kuwait?
Sir, you came here to hear me. If you didn't want to hear me, you could be having fun somewhere else. Now, what I'm saying is, God forbid we adopt that as our approach to citizenship. So, as to what we can do with the Supreme Court, we have to win we would have to win a wave election, and it could happen in 2026 to be in a position to impeach any member of the Supreme Court. And the other approach, advocated by some, and certainly not me, is armed rebellion. I think that's a bad idea. But look, I was just, we just had some people from a group demonstrating in front of my office who think that's the answer. Oh yeah, and by the way, Trump would like nothing more than armed fighting in our streets. Let's go, do we have another, wait, have I dealt with the first 5 questions?
Hello, thank you.
Okay, good. I'll take your question, and then I've got the rest of my statement. Yep.
I'm Ernie Gabriel, born and raised in Los Angeles, been here this July 77 years, and I thank you for what you do in Washington, and it also seems the response and the action of all the Democrats in Congress and the Senate are not doing enough to support the unconstitutional. Or how do we get all the Democrats to unite and move more actively?
I've never seen the Democratic Party in Congress more united. We will be voting against this big ugly bill, and I think it will be 100%. We were not united on one issue, and that was the issue of whether to at least treat seriously Al Green's articles of impeachment. I thought we should. A majority of my party went the other way. There are those who think, again, that we're not doing enough if we're simply holding, hearings and voting and all the things on C-SPAN. They want us to torch a Tesla. It would be newsworthy. It would also doom us to lose the 2026 elections. Because while there are people in this room that would get some emotional satisfaction from that, it's not going to win over swing voters. So if I was interested only in my own popularity, I would ignore whether we can win these seats in other parts of the country. I don't run in Omaha, but our country depends upon the outcomes in Omaha, Tustin, and Tulare. So do more? Absolutely. If you have any specific idea of what I should do, now, if we're in other countries, the unions would call for a general strike. That's the responsibility of you as much as me. Some of you are members of unions. I am not a member of a union. If the AFL-CIO wants to take the entire country out on strike, they're welcome to do so. I don't know. I see no interest in the AFL-CIO. I've talked to union leaders, and I don't think they're going to do that. But I'm in Congress. That's where our job is. But this is not just 200 and some of us in Congress. This is a team of 75 million people that voted against Donald Trump and needs to stand up to him and needs to win over the people who did vote for him. And I've had a lot of people tell me, Sherman, if you just did more, Trump wouldn't be president. And then I ask them, what precisely do you want me to do? And I will say this, somebody shouted out general strike. I hadn't heard that one before. Others have just said, talk louder. And with this microphone, I'm talking pretty loud. So I'm not a real fan of people shouting out things, but a general strike that's the first time I've heard that. There's no history in our country of that, but in other countries it has played an important role. Okay, I want to resume the opening statement now that we've had a chance to hear from people. I want to first introduce my staff here: Scott Abrams, John Alford, Allie Forrester, Justin Vines, Lisa Montano, Sam Seidel, and Sean Reagan. That is our constituent service staff. And I want to put in a pitch for their work, because they're there every day and they're in the back of the room for you right now. Imagine a federal government agency makes a mistake that affects you personally: Social Security, IRS, VA benefits. You call Scott and his team, they'll work very hard, they'll solve your problem, and then I, Brad Sherman, take the credit. For that system to work, you need our phone number. You might want to pick up one of our constituent service guides, but you may lose that. One thing you might hold on to is the comb, because so many of you have more use for a comb than I do. It's got our phone number on it. Give us a call if we can be of any help. In addition, second, and I hope our color guard is still here, if you know anyone interested in serving, going to the military academies, they ought to contact John. In October of their senior year of high school, in order to get into West Point, Annapolis, or the Air Force Academy, you need the kind of record that would get you into another prestigious college, and you also need an appointment from your member of Congress. That would be me. We have outstanding people that we get a chance to appoint. Now, we're going to have this town hall. It'll be over at some point. People say, well, is that it? Go to bradsherman.house.gov to register for our future town halls. Then we have a lot of different kinds of town halls. Last time I was in this auditorium, it was a student town hall. We have specialty town halls on particular issues: small business, Armenian issues, etc. We do the telephone town halls, and then we do in-person town halls. Now, the telephone town halls and these are expensive. Can't do as many as I'd like. We had 7,000 people in the last telephone town hall. We have filled this room here. When I ask people on the telephone town hall, should I do more telephone town halls? They all say yes. My guess is a majority of you want another in-person town hall, we'll do both. But there is a limit to what we're able to do. In addition, though, to town halls, I'm around the Valley and the West Side, mostly the Valley, in so many different ways. Earlier today, I was at the San Fernando Valley Pride Parade. Tomorrow, you can see me at the Warner Center Park Concerts in the Park. I don't know if you're familiar with those. You should be. The best value in entertainment in the San Fernando Valley. And we have our constituent service booth, so you can stop by there if you have a problem with the government, or you can talk to me. I'll be there too. On Monday, I'm with Alex Padilla. On the 4th of July, I'll spend at least 4 hours there at Warner Center Park, where we have our constituent service booth, but I'll also be at the entrances and generally around. And then later this week, I'll be at Adelanto, and again, if you want to join us there, send a note to John. Now, by the way, that visit, if I'm required to be in Washington, I obviously can't be in San Bernardino County. I have no control. The speaker will determine where I have to be. In addition to all this, we have survey questions here and survey questions on the website, and you can always send us a letter. So there are, or an email, etc. So let's deal with the survey questions. Everybody been told about our QR codes?
Yes, we're gonna walk these around. You guys have phones. Let's see if you guys can keep on. And then if you're on your own data and you click on it and it doesn't go through, the QR PIN code you can enter at that point is 263-7975. So we're trying this out 3 times. We give you one more time. If you click on the QR code, it doesn't open because you're using your own data.
Okay, our first question. Do you support the Republicans, what they call their One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which would provide a tax cut for $82,000 for those who make over $1 million a year, take away health care from 14 million Americans, take away nutritional support for 3 million Americans, and increase the national debt by $5 trillion. If you like what the Republicans are calling their big beautiful bill, push 1. If you're a no or a hell no, push 2. And if you're unsure, push 3. Let's now go on to the next question from the floor. A little closer to the microphone, please.
My name is Congressman. Thank you for creating so much calls. Good. That is the Soviet Russian genocide experience. Soviet Russian imperialism after World War II. I'm very emotional on this subject, so I'm going to get to it. Context. He was a Democratic president who allowed himself to be founded by New York Times journalists, who was Stalin's favorite and denied the existence of genocide against the Ukrainians. And under that, FDR recognized the Soviet Union, putting a nail in the coffin of Ukrainian freedom. He was then a Democratic president in 1994, 4 years into Ukraine's independence, who said, "Oh my God, Ukraine, you have the world's 3rd largest arsenal of nuclear weapons. We want to make nice with Russia. We want to give up all the nuclear weapons to centuries-old genocidal nemesis, Russia. And we will protect your sovereignty and we will foster economic growth. So President Clinton was very persuasive. It was done. And in 2014, when Russia broke that treaty, the original Russia, Clinton said no, neither one. No democratic voice said anything. And in fact, for the Ukrainian Special Forces, Congressman, I appreciate your time. I've been asking this question of either of your offices for 3 months, no response.
Well, you'll certainly get a response here. Now, the cooperate. Okay, let me get to your question. Can I?
In 2016, it was a Democrat, Vice President Biden, who called the Ukrainian intelligence officer and said, you know that the Ukrainian Special Operations Force is tried to hit a military target in Crimea and the South. Don't do that. Because after all, we want to be on the military. The war did not start in 2016. The genocide started in 2014. And it was a Republican Congress, we were called on the foreign relations team, who interviewed by CNN earlier this month said, what Putin is doing is nothing short of genocide. So, Congressman, I would like to hear you, at an appearance at the Ukrainian Cultural Center at one of our independence events in August, I believe you mentioned that one of your grandparents was Ukrainian. Ukrainian Americans are trying to get somebody to hear the number of
I have been to that cultural center and spoken about my support for Ukraine in this war. I was an advocate of arming Ukraine before the first time that Russia invaded in this century. While others said, only give them blankets and helmets, I said, no, sell them weapons and give them weapons. Had we armed Ukraine, we might have avoided the first or now the second invasion. Now, as to Roosevelt dealing with Stalin, that's a history lesson we can get into later. But my record on supporting Ukraine has been acknowledged by Zelensky, who I met with before this most recent invasion, by the ambassador of Ukraine, who was the first to join us on a telephone town hall just a month or two after the invasion. So yes, we should support Ukraine. Yes, I have supported Ukraine all along. And as to going through what was done last century, I'd actually enjoy it because I like history, but I think we have to move on to the next question.
Will you sign the Sanctioning Russia?
The Sanctioning Russians Act? I have done quite a number of bills to sanction Russia. If there's another one that I haven't looked at, I'll take a look at it. But I have supported the toughest sanctions on this regime, both for their human rights abuses within Russia and for their attack on Ukraine. And, by the way, we need to have the voice of America broadcasting into Russia. That's one of the things that Putin fears. Okay. John, can I go to another survey question? Let's go to, okay, this is going to be a long survey question, and some of you are going to find it boring because it is the only question that is not ideological, not international, it is local, but it is important. And that is the possibility, what we insist happen, and that is rail through the Sepulveda Pass. We have watched as we pay taxes to Metro, and they've built things all over the county and left out the single most congested piece of highway in America, and that is the 405. So, Metro wants your input by August 30th, but I want your input now. There are a total of 5 alternatives that are under consideration, and we're going to have a chance to vote on those, and then 6 will be unsure, and 7 will be don't build anything at all. The first alternative is an aerial monorail on the 405 with no connection to UCLA. It'll take 28 minutes to get from the valley to the west side. The advantage of this one is it costs only $15.5 billion and would take only 12 years to build. That is they go up from there. That's known as alternative one. You might ask what happened to alternative two. It's already been thrown out. On to alternative three, which is choice number two. This is mostly an aerial monorail along the 405, but includes an underground segment connecting to UCLA. It'll take 32 minutes to get from the valley to the west side, cost $21 million, and take 14 years to build. Third choice, known on your screen, will be heavy rail in the valley, running along Sepulveda Boulevard, and then goes underground at Ventura Boulevard. This one has one issue, and that it's above ground in most of the valley, and then at Ventura Boulevard and in the west side, it's underground. This option would take 20 minutes to get from the valley to the west side, cost $20 billion to build, take 14 years to build. Next is number 4 on your list. The MTA calls it alternative 5, but I'm calling it 4 because it's 4 on your list. Entirely heavy rail below Sepulveda Boulevard in the valley, so it's underground all the way. It does go through the Sepulveda Pass to UCLA, takes 19 minutes to get to the west side, costs $24 billion, takes 14 years. And finally, the most expensive alternative by just a little bit, entirely underground heavy rail running below Van Nuys Boulevard in the valley and continuing through the Sepulveda Pass, going to UCLA, takes 18 minutes to get from the valley to the west side, costs $24.5 billion to build, and takes 15 years. So those are the issues under consideration. I want to make it plain, whatever the community and especially the MTA applies for.
5 years. The last one was 5 years, sir.
The last one takes the last alternative takes 15 years to build. It's actually the most expensive and the most sophisticated of the options. No. These are the notes that I have from the MTA. If the MTA sent me the wrong stuff, it's the wrong stuff. I will say this, the last alternative is the most expensive. It will take the longest to build. They've told me it's 15 years. It's clearly the most sophisticated, and it gets you to the west side in the shortest amount of time, 18 minutes. So those are the alternatives. Press number 6 if you're unsure. Press 7 if you believe we simply shouldn't build this. I want to go on record now on 2 things. Whatever the MTA adopts and whatever the community and LA County is asking for money for, it will be perhaps my highest priority, certainly one of my highest priorities, to get that money in addition to our local tax dollars to build this. We should have built it 30 years ago. And second, I'm also going to be fighting for an adequate number, because the one thing these are all missing is an adequate number of parking spaces at the north end, because you don't want a situation where people are parking at every residence 4 or 5 blocks away and then walking. So we do need adequate parking spaces. So with that, those are the choices. Yes. Okay. As to the big, beautiful bill, is what the Republicans call it, 1% of you want me to vote for it, 96% say hell no, and 3% are unsure. That's pretty resounding.
The next number we got is 462.
Okay.
The next one is 449. 397. 434. 485. And 479. So we call your number, you see your number come up here, come on down here.
Yes. And then after I take a couple of questions from the floor, I'm going to take some of our, many of you have submitted written questions, and I ought to take a few of those as well, and I will after 2 more oral questions.
like you're a war criminal. There's 15,000 dead kids in Gaza, and you're sending them on to Gaza.
Please respect the people who are here to ask questions. Please respect the people who are here. Okay. This gentleman deserves our respect. Let's hear from him.
Congressman, thank you very much. Yes. You know you're not all powerful, but we appreciate all your efforts. I would say this. I would like to know, I mean, if you look at the results from the recent election, you see young people sliding slightly away from the Democratic Party, which has normally been kind of a strong place of support for the Democratic Party. People can argue about why, but I would ask, what is the Democratic Party doing to raise the next generation of leaders? With all due respect to decades and decades of experience, you mentioned public relations earlier, but public relations is getting out the vote. And what are we doing to raise the next generation of Democratic leaders in Congress, both federal, state, and local levels?
I have mentored the local leaders here in the San Fernando Valley. It's hard to find an elected official in the Valley who hasn't worked in my office, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. As for us appealing to young people, we have to be willing to go on to, and this is mostly a gender divide. We have lost young men to some degree. And that is a group that we have to appeal to, but also we have to reach out on some of the podcasts that the main leaders of our party haven't gone on. I'm willing to go on any of them. I am usually I'm more likely to be invited by BBC than Rogan. But then again, we've got Jasmine Crockett, who is more likely to be invited. And she's a good friend of mine. She does her, I do me. Yep, on to the next question.
Thank you for all of this today. We appreciate your time. I want to ask about a plan. What I hear a lot about is, frankly, across the board, there's a lot of people just saying, well, we don't have the votes, we don't have the Congress, we don't, a lot of excuses, frankly, from Democrats, mostly right now. And I'd like to know a plan. I'd like to know that there is Hakeem Jeffries' office, asking him what we're going to do. What are we for? Not what we're against, about Contract for America, if you remember that tonight. Something where we can tell the American people, this is what we stand for, this is what we need, this is what we're going to do for it.
Part of it is we're for the Constitution, we're for birthright citizenship, we are for a pathway to citizenship for those who are an essential part of our community. And then I also began my presentation by saying what I'm for: the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, an end to, quote, right to work laws nationwide, and the regulation of our pharmaceutical products.
Can I ask what you're doing to get the rest of your Democratic colleagues to join with you? It's going to take all of us. But we need everybody.
We clearly need everybody, and we have everybody behind many of the things that I talked about. We do not have everybody behind the idea of regulating pharmaceutical prices, but Okay, well, he asked me what I'm going to do. It's hard to convince somebody to do something if they've already agreed to do it. I'm not going to take credit for convincing the Democratic Party to be against right-to-work laws. I happen to have the statute that would change it nationwide. I've got my colleagues are all supporting birthright citizenship. Can I say I did a brilliant job of convincing them? No, they believe that before I talk to them. So we've got a team that I think knows where we want to take this country. I've outlined it, 5 things. I could outline many more. But whether it is protecting the trans community and the LGBT community, whether it is resuming our foreign aid programs, especially dealing with tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS and malaria. I've got to mention. What? Anyway, I'm not going to take questions shouted from the floor, but I'm going to give you one more answer as part of my answer to Arlene Krasner, who I don't know if she's here, but she said she was going to be here. And she asks, what are the, she's from Tarzana, what are the chances of losing Social Security? I've been paying into it since 1955. Again, another issue where Democrats are united, and this is part of our program. And I wish I could tell you I got Democrats behind this. John Larson did an awful lot more than I did. I've convinced a few. And so first, what is the Republican approach to Social Security? It is to denigrate it, dismantle it, and then privatize it. So you want to know what Democrats are for? The exact opposite of that. So what is the program? First, they call it a Ponzi scheme and tell you shouldn't, that it's terrible. Then they dismantle it by firing the people who carry it out. I was just demonstrating at the Chatsworth Social Security office where they are understaffed. And their goal is to get people who are getting Social Security to say, oh my God, it can't run. It's terrible. I call, nobody answers because they fired everybody. They doged everybody. And then finally, they're going to come forward with this idea of privatizing. Now, what will they do with privatizing? Well, first, they're going to try to deal with the big problem we have, which I'll get to, and I'll show you my solution to it, and that is that Social Security will not have enough money starting in 2035 to pay the full benefit. It will have enough money to pay 80%. That difference would devastate the lives of a lot of people here in the Valley. So their solution will be, well, don't put any more money into it, privatize it. So they'll go to everybody here, and a lot of people who were here a few months ago when it was the Canoga Park High School student body, and they'll say to them and to you, here's the deal. We'll put money for your account in Social Security, and you pick the investments. And if you pick brilliant investments, you'll be able to get your full Social Security benefit. But if you decide to invest in low-risk things that don't go up or down, well, you're going to have to accept a lower benefit because that's on you. You should have picked the brilliant ones. And then if you try to pick a high-risk investment and it turns to flop, well, then you don't get Social Security, or you get half or a quarter of the promised benefit. So they'll say you're going to get their system is don't have enough money, don't pay out the benefit, and blame the recipient who wasn't wise enough to realize which company was going to go up on the stock market or didn't want to take that risk. So what is the solution? It is John Larson's bill to make Social Security solvent through the end of 2020, through the end of this century. I have co-sponsored that with him again and again. It also increases benefits by 2% and shifts us to a different CPI index that more reflects the cost that the seniors face and would also lead to higher. Now, where does the money come from? We take incomes of over $400,000 and you say you too will be contributing to Social Security. Many of you know that the vast majority of everybody in here pays Social Security on every penny they make. But if you happen to make over, I think, 176,000, I don't have that number written down, then you stop paying into Social Security on anything else you make. In an effort to honor Biden's pledge not to increase taxes on those who make under 400,000, what this bill does is it says, okay, there'll be a little gap, but over 400,000, all the way up to Elon Musk, you pay Social Security on everything else you make. That means a secure benefit for everybody well into next century, and increased benefits and a host of other things. So that is where Democrats stand. The vast majority of Democrats support that bill, and Republicans stand for privatization. Let's go on to the next question.
The results of the last survey question, and we're going to go to the next question in just a moment.
Okay. So, alternative 1, 12%. Alternative, the second choice, which is branded as alternative 3, 7%. So that's a total of 19% for the monorail. 19% for the least expensive of the heavy rail. 16% for the mid-cost version of the heavy rail. And 25% for the most sophisticated approach, 18 minutes, and to the west side, a stop at UCLA, and a price tag of $24.4 billion. 14% of you are unsure, and 6% say don't build anything through the Sepulveda Pass. So let's go on to the next oral question.
Hi, Chuck Phillips from Encino. I'd like to cover the relationship with Taiwan and the imposition of tariffs with Taiwan on July 9. As they make so many semiconductors and cell chips, is there anything that you feel we are doing or should be doing to keep us safe?
To keep us safe.
Good.
Friend, did you say?
Keep Taiwan safe and friendly.
Well, Taiwan will definitely be our friend because they are our friend and because we are their chief defender from a country that might want to conquer them. We ought to have a fair relationship with Taiwan. Trump's approach to negotiating trade deals with our allies is simply insane. And as to chips, I did support the CHIPS Act so that we'll make more of the chips here in the United States, but Taiwan will be a critical part of our chip infrastructure for a long time. I have consistently been a friend of Taiwan, recognized as such by their ambassador. I have visited, when their president visits the United States, I'm usually the person introducing him or her, often in the University Hilton. And the odd thing is, the president of Taiwan isn't allowed to visit the United States, but they can refuel here. It takes a couple of days to refuel, and have an event here while they're refueling, as they then visit one of the very few countries that recognizes them in Central America. So it's an honor to be a friend of the Taiwanese government and to be selected as the person to introduce the president when she comes to Los Angeles on her refueling missions. Let's go on to the next question.
Hello, my name is Susie. My question is, what resources, legal and financial, are you and other Congress members putting together for people and families who are being unjustly targeted and terrorized by ICE right now? What does this support look like right now for people children, what does that support look like in the future, and how people learn about these resources to help them?
There are a number of organizations that are providing that legal help. I've donated to them in the past, but you're not asking for a few $100s to solve a problem. We, at the state and city level, are doing an awful lot to provide that legal representation. And we in Congress have got to fight against what ICE is doing. But this is a battle that takes place, and Trump is deliberately trying to exaggerate what he's doing. He tried to create chaos on the streets of Los Angeles by arresting people in the most visible places. And give me just a second here. So, and then when there is a reaction to his outrageous efforts on the street, he says, "Oh, LA is burning. I've got to go save them and send in more troops." It's the troops that caused the problem. So we need to provide legal services. I've raised money for some of those groups. I've given money to some of the groups. We have the material from some of the groups at the corner here. And let me go on to the next survey question. Okay, we're going to try to get in one or two more survey questions before. Okay, this is your third one. The Republicans' ugly bill puts a ban on regulating artificial intelligence at the state level for the next 10 years. Now, I'm concerned about artificial intelligence, not just because of the effects that it will have over the next 10 or 20 years, but because nobody's doing any research to see how we prevent and monitor for self-awareness and ambition in the new intelligence that we're creating. And so artificial intelligence is a tool, and perhaps a dangerous tool, for humankind at the present time, but at some point it goes from being a tool to a creature. So, if you support banning all state regulation of AI for the next 10 years, press 1. If you think that states should be able to regulate AI, press 2. And if you're unsure, press 3. Let's go on to the next question. Okay. If we have time, I'll go to another written question.
354 and 475.
Okay, we'll take one oral question, then I'll do a written question, then we'll go back to an oral question. Okay, now I'll do the written question now. Okay, this is from Rachel Gurin of Brentwood. What are you doing about anti-Semitism? This is a terrible problem. It affects a lot of people in our community. I am fighting for the full funding of the nonprofit security grant program so that mosques, synagogues, and others who are targeted for hatred can be adequately secured. I've also am fighting for an earmark for the same purpose. I understand anti-Semitism. ADL, which is the chief Jewish organization that fights against anti-Semitism, identified me as the member of Congress most subject to anti-Semitic attacks. My wife didn't like it when she read that. Let's go on.
Yes, hi, Congressman. My name is Jack Wong. I'm a U.S. Air Force vet, and I'm accompanied with my friend.
Good. Thank you for your service.
Anthony Taylor is 83 years old, U.S. Marine, and John, and we are homeless living in VA, in a tiny home over there. So we have a lot of issues there. And Anthony's been abused by the VA staff, Juan's been abused by people physically, and I've been a lot of problems with the nonprofit organization that comes to the VA campus. So this is my first time here, and I respect you immensely. I respect Washington, the three branches of the government. I respect the governor. I respect the state, police, everyone. I think this is a great country. The Constitution is most amazing. pieces of paper I've ever seen. And I don't know anyone here, this is our first time here. And if you give us an opportunity, give us some time to meet you and share a briefing with you, we'll be very grateful.
Folks, thank you for your service, and I'll thank each of your two friends for their service. You have three different problems. Your problem is with a nonprofit that's operating at the West LA VA, and we need to bring any evidence that they're acting wrongfully.
Black and white.
Look, I obviously can't read all the evidence here, nor can I conclude that they're wrong just by listening to you. We've got to look at your evidence. We'll take a look at it and then see whether the commander of that facility should limit their access. Then we've got, I don't know if you indicated that one of your friends wasn't currently getting the medical care that they need, but that is the bread and butter of our constituent service program for veterans. Again and again, people are calling about wait times, people are calling about access, and we've solved hundreds of those problems. You indicated that there was an abuse issue. We want to get more information about that as well. There's no way I can solve these three problems while standing here, but we're certainly going to give them the attention.
We just want to be heard.
You not only have you been heard, you've been heard here, and you will be heard in excruciating detail in the meeting we set up. Thank you. Okay, there we go. Okay, do you support the limitation on state regulation of artificial intelligence? 2% of you support it, 92% of you reject it, and 7% are unsure. Let's go on to, do we have one more questioner, John?
So we don't have one.
Oh, well, let me, we are coming to the end. Folks, we'll have another town hall. Not everybody was able to ask their question here today. You're all, of course, invited to write your question down on the cards we've distributed, and we'll get back to you on those. We do have a written question from Marcella of North Hills. Representative Sherman, how are you ensuring that USAID is restored and that the programs that rebuild the international community will continue? First of all, we have to get the word out about how little America spends on foreign aid. If you poll people, they think that we're spending 10-20% of our budget on foreign aid. Well, under Trump, it's obviously dropped to near nothing, but it's been well less than 1% of our federal budget, well less than 1/4% of our GDP. And as I explained earlier, it helps us. It helps us defeat diseases over there so we don't have to battle mutated forms when they migrate here. It helps us deal with our competition with China and others for power and influence around the world. And it, to the extent that my Republican friends say that they're worried about immigration and population flows, what other than desperation is causing people to take the incredible risks that they take in order to get here? So I mentioned, I didn't mention him by name, but Evan Anzu is the 5-year-old boy who died because Elon Musk took away his drugs for HIV/AIDS. I led 120 members of Congress in urging the House appropriators to appropriate funds. We are for USAID. We'll be having this battle in the coming months, but the president somehow believes that he can convince Americans that when you can save millions of lives, you should instead try to save money to finance his tax cuts for the very wealthy. But the image of the richest man in the world taking food and medicine away from the poorest people of the world is one that I think typifies this administration. So, folks, folks, John. Folks, please fill out those white cards. Show me where you stand on the issues on the survey. Participate in our next town hall. Sign up. See me at Warren Center Park tomorrow. See me at Warren Center Park on the 4th of July.